Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm Nolly, and in this video what I wanted to do is show you a little bit of the mileage that you can get out of automating the volume of your room mics through the course of a song. The song that I wanted to use to demonstrate this is the new single from Periphery, which is called Blood Eagle. And while this is a pretty heavy onslaught of a song, it's actually got quite a lot of different things going on drum-wise that we found during mixing really benefited from slightly different levels of room mics in order to maximize the articulation, also to not step over the vocals too much at certain points, and then when it needs to be really heavy, to really allow the drums to explode. Before we go any further though, let's take a listen to the main riff from the song. And I've muted the vocals just so you can really get your ear on what's happening drum-wise in relation to the rest of the rhythm section. So there you have it, that's the main riff from Blood Eagle. And the tracks which I really want us to focus on are these room tracks here. I've flattened down the folder just to make it less distracting. And you can see there's a bit of variation going on through the song. So our general level is kind of right around where it was when you just heard playback. But you can see at certain sections, just for short periods of time, I've boosted it up. Now this is something which I find myself doing quite a lot just to exaggerate, especially kind of snare decays. Parts where the drums are a little bit more exposed, just to make it almost sound like there's a compressor pumping up and revealing the room information. Now you could do this by actually compressing the drums, but I prefer to do it manually so that we don't end up with this kind of crazy compressed drum sound. So here would be an example here, just leading you from the pre-chorus into the chorus. You can see it's pretty subtle. The main thing I'm lifting out there is that snare reverb, because there's that little bit of time as the final snare hit hits. You've got like, I guess, a quarter note before the chorus kicks in. And I really didn't want that to die away too quickly, so a little bit of extra room mic there gives us a slight bit more explosiveness. Beyond these kind of little accent hits which I've added, most of the time what I've done is I've found certain sections where it's actually a good idea to subtract room. Now, you know, the amount of room sound on your drums is quite a personal decision. I tend to favour a pretty room-heavy drum sound personally, especially for that snare. But what you do find sometimes with that, especially on sections that require a bit more detail, is sometimes you can lose a bit of that and you can swamp the other instruments. You can really swamp the vocals too in particular. There's one or two sections in this song where we found, once we were adding the vocals into the instrumental track, that it was really necessary to pull back the room mics. One of the big examples would be the hi-hat version of the groove that kicks in kind of after the second verse. So this is the tom version of the groove, and then it will lead into the hi-hats, and hopefully what you'll hear is the room sounds pull right back. I'll play it once through for you with the full instrumental mix, then I'll go and solo the drums and play it one more time. So hopefully you could hear that the snare drum got really dry all of a sudden there. Let's check out how the drum bus sounds when we just solo the drums. I find, especially when you bring down the dynamic of drums by playing closed hats, it's really important to ensure the whole kit sounds similarly tight. And for me, the room mics are really the key to pulling back the rest of the kit sound to make sure it all sounds really clear and articulate. So that's what we did there. You can see there's a similar thing going on over here. This is the solo section, actually. So again, and this actually was a particular request from Spencer, the singer. He really likes the sound of quite dry drums. So, you know, we kind of found a middle ground, and in certain sections where we felt like we could pull it back and give a little bit more of the ambient space to other instruments in the mix, we did that. And here's what that bit sounds like. And I'll play it to you with just the drum bus soloed. ideally what you don't want is for the listener to be like, whoa, these drums have suddenly moved into a totally different space. But what you do want is just to kind of pull back the impact of the drum so that when it kicks into the next heavy section, you get the full impact of that. And that you can hear as we go into what's labeled here Mark riff, which is such a killer riff that kicks in straight out of the solo section. So what I'd really like you guys to take away from this video is that even in songs that are pretty aggressive from start to finish, there can be quite a lot of mileage to be gained out of just fluctuating the room mic level to create a little bit of contrast between sections. I think one of the biggest giveaways for me is when a heavy section kicks in and the drums don't feel like they're actually hitting any harder. For me, one of the first things I'd look at is perhaps we can bring down the room mics in the section immediately before we go trying to add more things to the heavy section to make it stick out. So try it out and let me know what you think. I think you might be surprised just how much you can get away with without seemingly destroying your drum mix. Anyway, that's all from me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.